talking about is how our Earth got its atmosphere, right? So the first thing we're going to go over here is just the definition of the word atmosphere. You got to know what it is. And I bet you guys probably know what our atmosphere is already. What is it? Uh-oh. Want to try it again? That's a portion of it. Yep, that's part of it. Say it again. Huh?
I said it's like, I don't know, it's like our sky and then like the stuff that blocks us from like, I don't know,
Our sky, but the stuff that blocks us from outer space? Okay, I get it. Yes, sir. That's a good way to think about it. If you know what the atmosphere is, you don't necessarily have to get this definition down because, like I say consistently, they're your notes, right? That you need to put in there what you need to know. If you already know it, you don't need it in there. So first thing you want to get down, if you don't know it already, is what that atmosphere is. It is the layer of gas that surrounds and actually protects our planet. How does the atmosphere, I need 2 ways after you guys get this down within your group. What are 2 ways that the atmosphere protects our planet? What are 2 ways that our atmosphere protects our planet? And I just repeat your answers, not because I want to put it in different words, but just so this can hear it. Yes, ma'am.
I said like if there's like asteroids or meteors that come, it like maybe has to break some of these down or
Yep.
destroy it completely.
Yeah, very good. It protects us from asteroids from space. It breaks those things or burns them up before they reach Earth and cause damage. And yes, ma'am.
Oxygen.
Our atmosphere has oxygen in it, but it's not like actively holding it in, if that makes sense. So, yes, ma'am. Okay, yeah, you brought up the ozone layer. Protects our planet from UV rays. Yes, sir? Yeah, it keeps us warm. It's like a blanket around us that maintains our warmth. So those are all jobs that you might note inside your notes. Because like I said, not every note you get comes written off of here, right? Some of it is listening and writing stuff down that we've said. So we came up with 3. It protects us from space rocks. It protects us from ultraviolet light. And it actually keeps us warm. If it weren't for that, it'd be like sleeping in the wintertime without a blanket. It gets cold. The atmosphere serves as a blanket around us. So we're going to go way back in time. Like in the Bill and Ted phone booth, we're going to have to take turns because you can only fit 2 or 3 people in there at a time. But we're all going to go back in time to when our atmosphere first formed on Earth. And we're going to take a look at like what we looked like as an Earth at that point in time. So we're going back, in the neighborhood of 4 or 4.5 billion years ago. We're going to go back in time. And you step out of the phone booth, and what is it like when you land on Earth? Can you be more specific? Yes, ma'am.
The air would be like toxic.
Air is toxic. There's one thing. So just bad to breathe. Es no bueno. There's one thing. What's the temperature like here on Earth at that point in time? Too hot. So hot. You know all the water we've got in the ocean right now? That stuff, if it was here at that point in time, it was so hot on Earth that it couldn't exist in liquid form. It'd be like spritzing water onto a hot frying pan where it just sizzles and goes back up. It'd be like that. The surface of the Earth was so hot that it would be like that. So it was really humid, really hot, and there was no long-lasting liquid water on the surface of the Earth because it was too hot for it to be here. To give you an idea of what it was like back then. And our atmosphere at that point in time was not the same as it is right now. If you went back in time then and took a deep breath, that'd be the end of it. Our atmosphere had different gases in it at that point in time. The 2 gases that our atmosphere had when it was first formed are the same gases that make up the sun for the most part, which is hydrogen and helium. So our first atmosphere was made mostly of hydrogen and helium, we think. So light, because those 2 gases are so light, they were blown away. Our first atmosphere disappeared by solar winds. If you've seen solar flares on the sun or heard about solar winds or anything like that, it's when the sun has like a eruption and it causes a pulse of energy, and it actually came past the Earth and stripped us of those gases that were here, and Earth was left without an atmosphere for a period of time. And it's because those things are so light that even now, hydrogen and helium just float off. We can't trap them here because there's not enough gravity. What planets can trap, not names, but what type of planets maybe could trap hydrogen and helium gases? Not necessarily really dense planets, but really, say it again. High gravity, yeah. Very massive, really big planets like the sun is mostly hydrogen and helium because it's got a lot of gravity. You can trap it. If you weigh, 100 pounds here on Earth, you'd weigh something like, I don't know the actual number, I thought it was like 17 times that if you go to the sun. Because the sun, so if you weigh 100 pounds here on Earth, you multiply that by 17, and if my math is right, that gets you purple, I think, right? 17 times 7, yeah, okay. Well, about like 1,700, so if you weigh 100 pounds here, you go there, you weigh almost a ton on the surface of the sun, because that's how hard gravity pulls you down. So those things can stay with bigger planets, but they can't stay with our planet. Our planet doesn't have the mass to keep them here. So for a period of time, we were left without any atmosphere that surrounded us. Then eventually, so that's you might want to make a note here, like that this is our first atmosphere, because I'm going to ask you to distinguish between first and second atmosphere as time goes by here. But you might want to distinguish that that's our first atmosphere. Our second atmosphere formed this way. It formed through a process. Here's a vocab word you want down, and the vocab word you want is outgassing, and I'll explain what that is. But our second atmosphere was formed through outgassing and made out of primarily three gases: carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and argon. When you get that, I'll tell you what. So outgassing, it's gross to think about, but you guys outgas on a regular basis. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? What am I thinking? That is correct. Yeah, you breathe out gases, right? You also get rid of gases other ways. Gross. So both of those are outgassing. Gases leaving like a body. Our Earth did the same thing with these gases. Trapped inside Earth from its formation were bubbles of gas that were released through, and you want to make sure you get this down, but outgassing is the release of gases from within the Earth through volcanic eruptions and cracks in the Earth and things like that. Be like you got a gas bubble trapped underneath and the Earth fractures and the gas is released. And that's how it happened. So it's the release of gas from within the Earth through volcanic eruptions and cracks in the Earth. And it released those gases in there. It'd be like, you ever go to the lake and you step on the bottom and bubbles come up from under the water? It's like the same thing. The Earth like bubbled gas out of it as it was forming, and that is what formed our atmosphere. Our second atmosphere, which is carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and argon. So the question is, if our Earth, and you can see it on there, that's what we think was our atmosphere was made of based on like the rocks and stuff that we can collect now. How do we get oxygen here? Because we've got oxygen here at this point in time. How did it happen? Like it says right here, simple life, like single-celled organisms, maybe algae or things like that, came to be, however you want to believe they came to be, they were here. But these single-celled, simple organisms were able to live in this atmosphere. Now you can only find those things in specific places, like deep seafloor vents where the temperature of the water is hundreds of degrees and it's full of chemicals and acid that spews out of there. There are actually animals. There's bacteria that live there that actually use that for food. But those bacteria that were there began eventually this process of photosynthesis, which released oxygen and made it so that you and I could breathe. But our ozone layer formed after oxygen formed, and our ozone, you've smelled ozone before, you just don't know that you've smelled it. You ever go outside after a thunderstorm and it just kind of smells fresh and new and like springy, but that nice smell? That's ozone that you're smelling, and it's created when electricity is passed through oxygen. It makes ozone. So that's what you smell. And that's how we predict our ozone layer formed, was electrical storms or electricity passing through our air turned oxygen into ozone and made us an ozone layer, which, as you guys said earlier, blocks rays from the sun, which are harmful. And depending on your point of view, that's either really, really lucky that electricity causes ozone to block ultraviolet rays, or like something planned that out very well, however you want to think about it. That's how that process. Helium that was blown away by solar winds and lack of gravity to the formation of our second atmosphere, which formed through outgassing, releasing gases from within the Earth. And that slowly changed as life formed and used up the gas carbon dioxide to produce oxygen. And then that oxygen that they produced turned into our ozone layer to protect us from the sun's rays. And the last bit, for only about 60% of our history has oxygen been on Earth. That's it. That's all it's been here for. And when you got that down, you are done with notes today. We'll go on to what you got to do. So leave your notebook out, but like I said, you are done with notes. We're going to get to the thing you got to do now. I'm turning the lights on. Oh, I'm looking forward to posting that video for you guys. All of my 3,018 followers will really appreciate your video. Huh? 3,018, yeah. So we'll get some views for sure. You guys will be stars before you know it. I'm not telling you. I'll post it for you. I'll post it on the Google Classroom site. All right, so we just took notes on page 6. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to flip your interactive notebook to page 5 for me, which is the page that comes right before page 6, the blank page right before page 6. There you go. And we're going to be on that page. That's where what we're about to talk about is going to happen, all right? Okay. So what we're putting there, I've already drawn up here for you, but what we're putting there on page number 5 is this. We're going to make a graphic organizer that kind of lays out all the information we've got of the atmosphere we went over. This is something you guys are welcome to take a picture of. I'm also intentionally walking by it on the video so that if you want to watch it on the video, it's there on the video. It's right there for you on the video, just in case you need to see it. But I'll explain this to you, and then you guys will get to work on it, okay? Yes, sir?
Where do we go?
Google Classroom website. It'll be linked right there. Do you know how to get to the Google Classroom website? My Classroom?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so here's what you're going to do, and we can do this together right now if you want to set this thing up. This is supposed to represent your whole piece of paper, right? So make your sizes about accordingly as to this. But in the very center of yours, you want the word atmosphere. And however you do it, it's got to be decorative. So we're talking like colors or neat, interesting writing or whatever here. But you want the word atmosphere in the center of this, in the center of your graphic organizer. And right now, if you just need to pencil it in lightly because you're going to put something over it later, that's fine too. But we want atmosphere in the center of it. Good to go? All right. What we're working on next, we'll start at like the 2 o'clock position and then work our way around clockwise. So what we're talking about here, and this you'll have to bring in a little bit from what we did before with like accretion and how stuff stuck. But you're going to put a little line that connects it, and then a bubble, like a big bubble where you can write a couple sentences inside of it. And in these sentences, you want to explain the formation of our atmosphere, like talk about accretion in there, talk about what gases were attracted to it, things like that, the gases that were there. So in this bubble, I'm talking like 2 to 3 sentences. So I'm going to write 2 to 3 right there to give you an idea of what I want within that bubble. Yes. If you write 4, that's fine, but no less than 2, please. Yes, sir. You do, yeah, it's yours. You make it however you want to make it. So lower right-hand side, so we were at like the 2 o'clock position. Now we're at like the 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock position. You just need a bulleted list that we went over the purpose of our atmosphere, like the things it does for us that are critical, right? We talked about that list early on, protection from the sun. We've got keeps us warm. We've got has oxygen inside of it. We talked about all the things it does. We want the purpose of it here. So that can just be a bulleted list, like a bullet. Here's one thing. Here's another thing. Here's another thing. Good to go? Okay. Making our way around to this side, we're at like 7 or 8 o'clock over here. On this part of it, again, you're going to put a big like thing. And inside of that, I want, again, 2 or 3 sentences that describe that, tell me the composition of our different atmospheres, like what gases are in them. And yes, I know that means you're going to have to look up the gases that are in this one, right? Because we talked about the gases that were in the first one, and we only talked about 2 gases that are in our current one. So give me the top 3 gases in each atmosphere. So 3. So, and really, we've got our first atmosphere, which was made of those really light gases. Our second atmosphere, that was from outgassing, which turned into our third atmosphere when photosynthesizers got here. So I'm looking for top 3 gases, top 3 gases, top 3 gases, right? All right, last writing blip you've got to have up here, this is going to be 2 to 3 sentences, is the evolution of our atmosphere. What caused it to go from atmosphere number 1 to atmosphere number 2 and then to evolve into atmosphere number 3? Take me through the steps of what occurred as our atmosphere went from 1 all the way through the next, like the process of outgassing. You should be mentioning photosynthesis in there. You should be mentioning oxygen and the ozone layer and things like that. So keywords here, outgassing. I'm going to write PS for photosynthesis. I'm going to ozone and the things that formed in there, oxygen. Those things should all be in there. And then last part is you can see in between each of these things is a color picture that needs to do with our atmosphere some way, somehow. It needs to be in there. So that's what you guys got. It's got to look nice. I'll show you some different examples, I think, that I've got here of ones that got made last year. I can walk these around for you. Here we go. So I've got 2 examples here. I'll put them on the video machine. But we've got this example of what it looks like. We've got this example of what it looks like. And then I'll walk around so you can see what the final copies for these guys looked like last year. And I'll turn my video machine.